Welcome back to the Cardinal Chirp. I'm Paris Van Dyke, and today I'm joined with Maverick Fisher, who we have here on the podcast, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself. So if you want to tell the viewers maybe just a little bit about what you do for your job or anything like that.
Of course, yeah. So I'm a welding instructor over at Olney Central College. I've been out there since 2019. I teach sophomores in college, freshmen in college, and then also dual credit classes where I've had a former Cardinal, Eli Van Dyke.
Yes.
And I'm getting ready to watch him graduate next week with his associate's degree. So that was pretty exciting to watch that come full circle after having him as a high school dual credit student.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm actually related to Eli Van Dyke.
Really?
Yeah, so he's my cousin, and I've heard of so many people who have gone through your program and say you're an excellent teacher. So, yeah, that's really cool.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it, very proud of our program over there. I feel like we've gotten all the stuff we need. I feel like we have a great facility. I feel like everything's just been going our way over there.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into welding? How did that become an interest in your life?
So, for co-op, I started working at DC Weld in Flora,
Okay.
and then Dennis and Jeremy, they were awesome. Kind of helped me learn how to do it and everything, and it just seemed like what I wanted to do.
That's really cool. I know my mom's the ag teacher here at North Clay, and I've had a lot of the boys in the shop tell me, "Hey Paris, why don't you come over here and try and weld?" And I've always said no to it. I'm a little bit scared of the sparks and everything, so it's definitely not my thing, but it's really cool to watch it and see people complete different welds, and I've heard of all the different terminology, but I'm not too good at it, so. So I've also heard about how you are part of the County Line Quail Forever Club. Can you tell us a little bit about that club and what you guys do?
So I'd love to, yes. So I am, president of our County Line chapter of Quail Forever. In our chapter, what we do is we kind of have a two-pillar approach to it. So we are wanting to restore wildlife populations, not just quail. We're Quail Forever, but it's not just quail.
Yeah.
We care about all of our native wildlife, pollinators, everything like that. Then also youth outreach, making sure that we can appreciate and we know how to appreciate the wild places around us. So our Quail Forever chapter, how we function, I guess, is very unique, and I think that was a big reason why we chose Quail Forever in 2020 whenever we started. There was 5 of us, and we wanted to do something, we just didn't know what. Well, Quail Forever let us have this chapter, but we get to keep 100% of our fundraising dollars, to where it seemed like other organizations we had looked into, maybe we didn't get to keep all of it, or we didn't get to keep none of it, or we only got to keep some, or we had restrictions on how we could use it. To where it was with Quail Forever, we don't have any of those. 100% of every dollar that we fundraise stays here. We vote on it on our monthly meetings, and it's just completely democratic and right here in Clay and Wayne County, because that's our coverage area.
Yes, I saw that online, and I think that's really awesome that you're keeping it local, you're keeping it here. So is there any way that people can become a member within that?
Absolutely. So you can go online, quailforever.org, and just click join, and it'll run you through it. And then I'll see you on my roster, and will get invited to like our banquets, anything that we have going on for youth. So we do have what used to be the Jake's Day out there at the Winka Farm. Now it's called the Ray Winka Memorial Youth Day. We've had that for 2 years out there. The Winkas are awesome, letting us still have that. And that's a completely free youth event. Bring your kids out, and it looks a lot like Jake's Day used to. There's maybe a few other additions.
Okay, that's really cool. That's awesome for our community just to be involved with that. And I love how you said, you looked at different organizations and you couldn't find one that really stuck with the morals and the things that you guys were wanting to implement into your own. And so I think that's awesome that you came together with a group of people and you started this. And it looks like you guys had a pretty successful banquet, as I saw on Facebook.
Oh, also, I guess I forgot one of the other founding members, also a Cardinal, our former Cardinal, Mr. Collins.
Yes, so I heard that you guys are good friends.
Best friends. The
best friends, yes. And I remember he was our science teacher here for a year, and I had him for science a couple years ago, and he was one of the best teachers I have ever had. He is super involved with the students and just does a great job at teaching. And yes, he spoke about you. So,
oh, really?
Yeah,
awesome.
so I think that's pretty incredible that you guys are good friends, and yeah, he was a great teacher. So
Absolutely, and it was so cool to see that how that chapter started, because like even though we're Quail Forever,
Yeah.
I'm the only one at that point in time that really bird hunted. Now Mr. Collins has gotten to where he's bird hunting pretty hard all the time out there in Colorado.
Yep.
All the time now, but at that point in time he didn't really bird hunt hardly at all. His little brother Ryder, who also helped start it, and his wife Taylor, they also didn't bird hunt at all, but they cared. So Race cared about just the environment. He cared about the pollinators, cared about that type of stuff. To where Ryder was more like deer, turkey hunter, things like that. And then Taylor had been in with the Jakes, or been in with the National Turkey Federation, doing Jake's days and stuff like that.
Okay.
She loved it, and then she was like, "Oh, we can do the same thing with this."
Yeah, I remember when Race was here, he helped us with Earth Day. Actually, we had a really great day here. We helped clean up landscaping around the schools, and then we planted a tree out here in the middle of the school up here with the whole entire high school. So it was just a really good day of being together. And I was talking to my mom. I'm like, we should really bring that back, because I know she helped him out with that. And yeah, it was just a great experience. And I'm very passionate about the environment as well. So with FFA, I'm actually on the environment team. So we're going up with the Land Use Council 13 is supporting us. So
Okay.
we'll go to the state contest here in a week. It's next week actually. And so I can't wait to go with my team. We present, basically they give us different categories and we test in those for like forestry and 5th category, and so many other aquatics, and just it's so much fun to get to connect with students all throughout the state who are passionate about the same things. And then we get to present in front of a board of judges, and then they pick a state winner that then goes on to the national level. So
Awesome. Well, good luck. I'm sure you'll do great.
thank you.
As far as we get a fundraise here, everything stays here, everything's Clay and Wayne County based. I'd like to talk about the actual habitat work we do,
Yeah.
how all that works out, and why we do it. So how our habitat projects work is essentially you have something that you're like, I'm just mowing this, or this woods is completely closed canopy, there's nothing growing at ground floor. I know something needs to happen here, but I'm not sure. Or you have a piece to where you're like, I want better hunting here on this recreational ground I own. How do I do it? Well, you could get a hold of us. You can follow us on Facebook, County Line Quail Forever. My number's on there. You can call me. Also, too, go to your local USDA Farm Service Agency, and you'll talk to a biologist there. Caleb Crawford who would cover this,
Yeah.
and he's going to forward you on to me anyway. So, however you want to go about it. But what's going to happen is our chapter will come in and we'll look at what needs to be done. So if you have an invasive cool season grass like fescue, which we almost have everywhere around here, so first thing we're going to do is try to knock that back. And the reason we have to knock that back is because that is a thick sod forming mat type grass, and that's not going to be good brooding cover for your quail chicks, your turkey chicks, anything like that. And it's very unnatural in the way that we didn't really have any native sod forming grasses like that around here before. And then also, even if we did have thicker grasses, which we did have, quite a bit of grasses, we had fire running over the top of them to thin that thatch layer out. And a quail chick or even a turkey poult, in a fescue mat, a 3-year-old fescue patch that's just been bush hogged every year, it keeps on getting thatch and the junk knocked down to the floor. That's a place where you essentially go to die as a baby turkey poult or a quail chick, because you can't get through it. You just cannot maneuver. Their bodies were never made for anything like that. They need bunch forming grasses, but they also need a lot of forbs. So we talk about prairie restorations, grassland restorations, and I feel like that can sometimes be misleading, because I feel like we picture fields of 6-foot tall grass stacked side to side as far as they can possibly go and as tight as they can possibly get. Not that type of thing. We're looking for a heavy forb component and a lot of bare dirt at ground level. So I'm not talking like fresh disc field or something like that. I'm saying that if you were to get an inch off the ground, you would look around and you would see dirt, but you wouldn't really be able to see a whole lot of the sky around you because there's that cover. So we're talking cover that's thick at the waist and then really, really open at your feet. Yeah. So we go in, try to make that. How we have to make it usually is spraying out fescue with herbicide. Or if there is other invasives with fescue and brome, just the cool season grasses are the main issue we have. So we'll spray that out, then we'll burn it. Then sometimes we'll seed it depending on what the landowner wants. depending on what the goal is. Sometimes we'll just let the seed bank of all of our other native seeds express itself and do, that's called old field style management.
Okay.
But we also will plant some things, just kind of depends. But anyhow, then the most important thing, we're going to put it on a prescribed fire regimen after that. And with the conservation, especially when you're getting into early successional ecosystems like this, there is no cookbook recipe of, I come in here and do this year and then this the next. You've got to go look at it. And you've got to kind of know your plants to know what needs to be done. So we'll go in and we'll put it on that prescribed fire regimen and then we'll monitor it. Probably burning somewhere between 2 and 5 years after we've removed all of the cool season grasses and possibly planted, done whatever. But we'll also do it with timber burns too. So if you have a woods that you deer hunt in and you feel like there could be a lot more herbaceous growth at ground level, but it's just kind of getting choked out, we will come in, do a prescribed fire there too. So we'll run this, our fire season usually runs from October till about the end of April. So far this spring alone, we've burned off 460 acres. So we've impacted over 1,000 acres though of habitat between Clay and Wayne County since we've started. Yeah. And how this is happening is just, through you call me, and then we get our team together, we come out and burn it. So if you're interested in prescribed fire, if you've wanted to do it, but you're like, I don't really know if I know how to do it, I don't know if I have the equipment, don't know if I have the people power, we have all those things, and we are more than happy to help, and it doesn't cost a dime. We do our burns completely for free, and we're just happy to help out. And one thing that'll be really nice, and we're already kind of seeing that, is a little bit of a fire culture getting started around here to where instead of it just being us that's burning, I looked up in the sky probably this week in March, and there was a ton of fires that weren't ours.
That too.
And that was awesome for us to see. That was awesome. And that's in places that do have, I'll talk about quail. That's my favorite. Places that have high quail populations, they have a fire culture. So one thing that I think is important to know is that this quail decline, the reason we don't have quail, there's a lot of reasons that people will state, but if you were to actually look at real studies and good studies, it's going to show the habitat is the only reason. And I think that most people would come to the same conclusion if they just thought through it a little bit. So what I'm meaning by that is, we talk about predators possibly. And goodness gracious, I ain't saying that predator control can't help. What I'm saying though is, you say, well, it's the hawks, it's the coons, it's the bobcats, it's the coyotes. Okay, so were there not hawks, coons, bobcats, coyotes 100 years ago whenever they were thriving? Okay, so we had all that. So well, that can't be it. What did we have? Fire 100 years ago. Absolutely, we're still using fire. Were people using their woodlands for tent lumber, for firewood, everything else? So yeah, they were. So our woodlands weren't so closed off. We had open ground, more of a savanna type ecosystem. One thing that's amazing to me is that they actually took pictures of our counties right here in 1933. Okay. You can get on there and you can see the trees were spaced out more. There was, and there actually wasn't as many trees. That shocked me, but it shouldn't shock me, I guess, because if we think about it, we had prairie chickens here in Clay County until at least until the mid-50s. We know that happened, and in Wayne County, same way. So they are completely dependent on grasslands. They're also completely dependent on low-level growth. So we know that for a prairie chicken to really make it thrive, continue, that there can't be anything really over 20 foot tall within about an 800-acre span. So if they were living here, we know that this county was that open. Yeah. And to where now go try to find 800 acres where there's not a super tall tree, a telephone pole, something like that on it. So it was a grassland ecosystem around here, and that's what we're trying to bring back, because it just makes sense that if these are native animals that are used to a fire regimen, they're used to native plants, the plants that they've been living off of for thousands of years, that you would manage them with the native plants that they have been used to, and that you would also apply the same fire regimen that we used to have. And that's what folks will ask, why is fire good? I think one thing that's important to understand about fire, if you're wanting to know why it's good, is to understand it's not a good, bad thing. It's, well, why is our average rainfall good? Why is our average temperatures good? Well, it's because the flora and fauna have adapted to that, and that's what they're used to. And if you were to give us, like, say something like what Mexico has, if you were to put Mexico City's weather here, our biota would not like it. It would start to decline. So it's not that fire is good or bad, it's that fire is an absolute necessity for our wildlife around here that have adapted to it for thousands of years. So it's not like we're doing something good or extra, we're just putting an absolute necessity back on the landscape. And I think that's why every time we put fire anywhere, it's amazed me we could go burn off a half acre somewhere of a barn lot where someone's like, hey, I don't have cows or horses anymore, I don't want to bush hog it. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, there's nothing else around here, but yeah, we'll do it. At least it'll be good for pollinators or something like that. But then sure enough, quails start showing up. They'll have turkeys out in it, and it's like, okay. So on such a fire-starved landscape, it's very obvious that that's what they're wanting. And it's amazed me how well they've been able to fill in. We still do have enough quail around here, apparently, to where every place we burnt, there's been quail there. And most of them, there's been turkeys come back in. So and these were places where people's like, I haven't heard quail out here in 20 years. So highly effective, and it's free. And that's one thing, too, that I think folks can maybe be led astray on sometimes, is if you start reading about, things for wildlife, there's a huge money market out there, to where you're wanting to make money off of a product to help the wildlife. And that does help on good things, so like native plants. I feel like we're seeing a reemergence of native plants, but it also helps that you have people pushing native plants and it can be monetized. There is no monetizing prescribed fire, so it doesn't get the voice that it should have. Fire's just free.
Yeah.
It happens for us naturally. So the prescribed fire aspect is, I think, really the pillar of our chapter and what's allowed us to have the impact, and also was what had helped us win that National Habitat Chapter of the Year this past year. So.
Yeah, congratulations with that. That's an awesome achievement, and thank you for explaining that, because I was reading a little bit too on your guys' Facebook page, and that really, it does make sense as to why we need to look back, and see how things used to be and how we can do our part here and now to, ensure that those animals are protected and that our environment stays good. So thank you for being here. And is there anything else that you would like to tell the viewers about?
Well, I think that I just want to go run over just some things that you could do if you wanted to help the quail population, the pollinator population, just any type of our native wildlife. And I think the first thing would be is learn your plants. And one other cool thing about learning your plants is that if you get into even like low level botany, you will never be bored the rest of your life. Since I got into it, I've never had a boring car ride. They could be 40 hours long, and I'm looking in the road ditches, I'm finding everything. Me and Race go pretty hard on that. But anyhow, yeah, so we drove out to Colorado lots, and we're identifying, we're having fun. But the other thing is knowing those plants. It gives you a side hobby if you're a hunter or even a fisherman or anything like that, where it's the off season, you can't hunt, whatever. You can start learning their habitats, you can start learning those plants, and it's just going to make you better at those things in the end. So learning your plants would be a good thing to do if you really were wanting to help improve things. That way you could distinguish what's good and bad. The other thing you could do is mowing. That's one huge issue that I feel like we see and has led to the quail decline. So obviously, if you have a yard in town, you can't go burn it off probably. Like prescribed fire is probably not great for you. But do you have to have the whole yard? Could you have a 10 by 10 patch of native plants and help the pollinator population out? If you're living out in the country and you have 6 acres and you're mowing all of it with a riding lawnmower, does that really need to happen? Could we convert some of it back into native habitat? If you have bigger tracts and you're bush hogging, once a year, well, first off, why are you bush hogging? So I would run through that with yourself. Am I bush hogging because I like the looks of it? Am I bush hogging because I'm wanting to cut down on like sprout woody component? I don't want trees growing up in this. Am I bush hogging because I'm just afraid if I don't, it'll get away from me? Am I bush hogging because I don't know how to put the prescribed fire down, or I'm nervous about putting prescribed fire down? So looking into less mowing, and you can achieve, especially with the sprout and woody kill component, prescribed fire is going to be so much better than bush hogging anyway, and you can do it biannually or even more than that. But if you're going to bush hog and you decided I just have to bush hog, fire's not an option here, but I still want to do something good, switching your bush hogging timing to March instead of how we normally do it, which is in the early fall,
yeah,
that it's going to help a lot. I don't know if you knew this, that 12% of quail deaths a year are from getting hit with bush hogs. And that's because our nesting season is way later than what we ever used to think. So we used to think, July-ish was about the end. You might have a hatch in August. And now that they've been able to get radio colors on these birds, they've been able to get trackers on these birds, they know that they're nesting all the way up until October. And as quail hunters, I'm surprised that we never understood that or saw that, because we've all been, or anybody listening that's ever quail hunted, we've all been into that covey like in November that couldn't hardly fly. They were just baby birds. And it's like, but we thought for some reason, I don't know, they must have just been stunted, I guess, from July. I until I read those studies, it's like that makes so much sense. We do get into young birds. So whenever you're out there bush hogging, August, September, and that time frame, you're actually right in the peak of nesting season for our part of the country. So August is definitely a huge time for quail nesting. And then the other thing too that is crazy is that a lot of times those nesting hens will not move. They will move for a prescribed fire. That's
wow.
So, like speculation. I mean, of course, I don't know what they're thinking, but I can only imagine is that we've had fire running over the top of those birds for thousands of years. We've only had bush hogs for like 50 of them or so, and they don't know what's coming, so they're just going to their natural state of I'm gonna freeze and hold tight because that's what they're supposed to do. But where the fire, like they get it, they understand it. I need to get out of here. This thing's coming. And that's one thing too that I think is important to understand. If you're concerned with prescribed fire, is we're going to ruin quail nests. Like if we're going to burn in April, will it be tall enough for them? Will it be whatever for them? Well, obviously quail love fire, and that's why we're seeing them so much, and that's why they can understand fire ecology and when they nest, where they nest. Where a bush hog, they have no clue. They just don't know about it.
Wow, I never realized that, but that would have a huge impact, I'm sure, on how they would perceive that. And just, technology's changed a lot. We've talked about that many times. I mean, my grandpa, he's a farmer, and they just got in some drones for spraying their fields and such. Into consideration of how that's affecting the animals around us as technology improves and people try and find more efficient ways for us, but how we can still help the animals that surround us too.
Well, I think you nailed it with efficiency, and that's one thing. I think sometimes we feel like conservation and ag have to be almost against each other, but that's not true at all. They can work hand in hand, and I think that's really the mission of our Quail Forever chapter. Is we're not saying we really hope you would turn your most productive cornfield into CRP or turn it back into prairie. We're not saying that. We're saying that if you have a 2-acre corner somewhere that you just can't hardly get your stuff to, and you're just bush hogging it every year, let's do something good with that. Let's take the unproductive stuff and let's make it as good as possible. And I think in a state like Kansas, who has a stable quail population, you go out there, they farm just as hard as we do, but what's the difference? Why do they have so much more quail than us? And I think that's because what they do have is high quality. Yeah,
that's really awesome. So I appreciate you being on here today and taking the time out of your day to come see us. This is great information, and I hope you guys will check Maverick Fisher out on Facebook and see what he's up to with just helping our environment and the importance of that. And so if there's anything else you'd like to say, you're good?
Follow us on Facebook.
Yeah, follow him on Facebook. So thank you guys for joining us again, and we'll see you next time on the Cardinal Chirp.